thanks for joining us. Marina Park was packed with beer lovers Friday and Saturday evening for the annual BrewHa Festival. The event gave attendees the opportunity to reconnect with friends while supporting local and regional businesses. Jessica Clement reports.
This weekend's weather was perfect for the hundreds of residents who made their way down to the waterfront to sample a wide selection of craft beers, coolers, and ciders for the BrewHa Festival. In addition to the beer companies, the event also featured 10 food vendors, a marketplace, a number of games, and a string of live musicians ranging from jazz and blues to country and rock. The festival was last held back in 2021, and spirits were high as attendees were able to reconnect with friends and colleagues, while also enjoying the many flavors offered by local and regional businesses. And it was all for a great cause, as a portion of the proceeds will be going towards Our Kids Count. We spoke to some patrons who were excited to be back together again after 2 years.
Great to see everyone together, especially after COVID and all those times. It's remarkable to see the interaction and the community together. There's no words to express it.
It's awesome, like the live music in the background and everyone walking around. It's a very good environment. It's the perfect setting for it. The marina, the beautiful waterfront.
Organizers expected up to 3,000 people over the weekend, and Chamber of Commerce President Charlotte Robinson says the turnout didn't disappoint.
The weather's cooperated, so we've had a lot of folks that have sort of just decided to come today or last night, and we're really excited about the great turnout. It's really great to see folks that I haven't seen for a number of years, all coming together and just enjoying being together. So it's a really nice feeling.
Jessica Clement, TBT News.
Tomorrow night, City Council is being asked to adopt Thunder Bay's new strategic plan. It'll help shape future council decisions through 3 key pillars the city feels are most important to Thunder Bay. The 3 pillars each have their own unique objectives. The first focuses on improving relationships with the Indigenous community, while the second looks at safety and well-being, including crime prevention. The third is titled Prosperity and Sustainability and prioritizes urban density and creating a supportive business environment. City Director Tracy Smith says a survey will come out later this month asking the community and staff how they feel these goals can be met.
What specific steps they think that the city can be taking to achieve the objectives that are outlined in the strategic plan. We will then have working sessions with the various leads who would be responsible for implementing the bulk of the actions. And it's at that point that specific metrics will be developed, timelines, leads.
The plan is released as the 2022 Citizen Satisfaction Survey found the lowest quality of life for community members since tracking began in 2009. First steps have begun into the federal impact assessment process for the Northern Road Link. Public information sessions were held in Thunder Bay and Greenstone this week. Lee Noonan attended the Thunder Bay meeting and has the details.
The federal impact assessment will look at potential environmental, social, and economic impacts of the Northern Road Link, as well as possible impacts on Indigenous rights, and gauge whether the project is in the public interest. Eli Weisbrot, Impact Assessment Agency Projects Manager, led a roundtable discussion.
We'd love to hear feedback from the public and stakeholders on what exactly, in relation to the local and regional environments, is there and what the proponents should be focusing on.
The Northern Road Link would connect the proposed Martin Falls Access Road to the proposed Webequay Supply Road. Some at the meeting questioned the decision to separately assess each of the 3 proposals. Weisbrot said the process is driven by the proponents and the individual purposes of each project.
It was proposed that way, so we were, they're designed independently. Okay. Northern Road Link projects, it does connect the 2 projects.
Each of the 3 roads is undergoing its own assessment, while a broader Ring of Fire regional assessment is apparently in the works. Another concern raised at the session was whether there was enough time allotted for consultation.
This is going to be a long process because there are so many different people involved, and I believe, though, that its time has come, and I also believe that with the proper guidance and cooperation, we can make this happen. I think it's a good thing for Northern Ontario, but it has to be done right.
At a press conference in Manitoba earlier in the week, the Premier said a federal assessment was a waste of time and taxpayer money.
We have to make sure we get those critical minerals out of the ground as quickly as possible, partnering up with our Indigenous communities. We have two great partners there, but there's no reason that what frustrates people is duplication of government. So the federal government has stepped in and said, well, we have to do an environmental assessment on top of your environmental assessment.
The public is currently being asked for input on the assessment itself, including what information should be collected and how to best conduct consultations. Comments can be submitted up until July 21st through the Impact Assessment Agency of Canada website. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
The province has announced more than $500,000 in Northern Ontario heritage funding for an aquaculture research project at the experimental lakes area. Minister of Northern Development Greg Rickford made the announcement on Wednesday. The $550,000 grant will support research into the use of fish waste as fertilizer for cultivated wild rice and sustainable co-culture of fish and wild rice. It's being done through a partnership between 3 local First Nations, Lakehead University, and the Myra Group Biotech Company. The program will include training and employment opportunities for Indigenous communities. Dryden City Council met this past week where they voted to award the local arena's concession services contract, and Council also discussed the issuing of a temporary building permit for a project on Albert Street. Council had twice granted extensions to operate the Dryden Arena's concession stand, but this year it was once again up for a vote. Although another bidder did meet the requirements, it was decided that the contract would go to the goalpost, the previous tenant, and also the highest bidder. Another development was a vote in favor of site control plan for 99 Albert Street. An old church on the property is being torn down and being replaced with a 2-story office building. Dryden Mayor Jack Harrison says he's excited to see this and other developments move forward.
We've got 2 developers, each one's putting in about 20 townhouses, the other one be 8 duplexes. So in total, that's about 100 units in our area, and we know that housing shortages across Ontario. So, Dryden is no different. So we're excited to see, these units coming in this year or early next year. So.
Council also voted in favor of lowering the flag at Dryden City Hall to half-mast in the event of an OPP officer dying on the job. 200 years after the death of her great-great-great-great-grandmother, a Calgary woman has journeyed to the remote northwestern Ontario First Nation where she died and where people still remember her story.
Oh my goodness.
That's your ancestors, I guess.
Wow. Corrigal.
Mary Corrigal was likely Indigenous and would have lived at the Hudson Bay Company trade post 3 hours upriver from the current location of Martin Falls First Nation. Records show that she drowned there in 1823, and 200 years and 6 generations later, her descendant, Corrie Giddings, made her way back with the help of the Martin Falls Baxter family.
We talked about our families and the connection that we might have. Bob had mentioned that the story that he learned about Mary's death was that she had drowned coming back from the native village across the river from the fort, and that one of his great-great-grandmothers had been with her, and they were friends.
Giddings says the trip was emotional, and she felt grateful for the support that she found when she was welcomed in Martin Falls, adding that in an age of pretendians and descendians, she would encourage other white settler Canadians with distant Indigenous ancestors to reach out respectfully to reconnect with the communities where they might have roots.